6 down, 6 to go in the Junior Moto3 World Championship, with everything at the moment pointing towards Daniel Holgado romping towards the title. However, we arrived here at Aragon this time last year with Xabi Zurutuza in a similar position before eventual champion Ethan Guevara conjured up something magical, a hat-trick of wins from the 8th row of the grid, forcing a momentum swing. Can someone do the same 15 laps ahead of the Junior World Championship? Hello, good afternoon and welcome back to Motorland Aragon. Slightly delayed schedule after the red flag in the Hawkers European Talent Cup, but we're about to get underway with the Moto3 Junior World Championship, the only race of the day. They've had a long weekend building up towards this. They've all got one shot at it, and all eyes are on the number 10 of Adrian Cruces. He has had a spectacular weekend so far, almost untouchable. The big question is, can anyone stop him from romping clear? In fact, not Adrian Cruces, we've still got our wrong timing screen up. Jose Antonio Rueda, of course. There we go, the timing screen changes in front of us. The number 95. He has had a spectacular weekend. Can anyone stop him?
Well, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? I mean, the early stages of the race are probably going to give us the answer to that. Before we discuss the race coming up, let's take a look at what happened last time out in Portimao. And of course, Jose Antonio Rueda is looking to do what Joel Kelso did last time out, and that's take his first Moto3 Junior World Championship victory, watched on by the current Moto3 World Championship leader, Pedro Acosta. We saw another absolute thriller in Moto3, which was halted by a red flag involving an accident involving Harrison Voigt, who we will talk about in just a moment. We wish him well. But when the race resumed, we saw all sorts of battling in what was essentially a sprint race. Joel Kelso losing out early on, but he soon picked his way through to the front of the group at the start of the final lap, and the stage was set for a head-to-head in the end between the Australian Kelso and the championship leader Daniel Holgado. There were incidents further back. That was the moment that cost Ortola crucial positions and crucial points. That was the moment that allowed Holgado to take a brief lead over Kelso, but when it came down to it in the final sector of the lap, Kelso managed to edge himself in front before holding on in the run to the line by just 6 thousandths of a second. That is what 6 thousandths looked like as they came across the line. Holgado's championship challenge was strengthened with second, but Kelso the winner for the first time in the Moto3 Junior World Championship.
The Australian having a frustrating weekend as well following that victory. Maybe he just went out and partied a little bit too hard, because he said that he was sick for about 14 days, in bed and sleeping nearly for 18, 19 hours of the day. He was really feeling under the weather, and as a result, the first time he was able to jump on a bike and actually get some training done ahead of this round was on the Monday before Aragon, at the start of this week. He says he's not really feeling 100%. His physical fitness, his cardiovascular fitness, not there, and as a result, he starts this one from 15th. He's got a long lap penalty as well. He's one of a few. We'll give you a note of when you need to get your pen and paper down to jot down all of the riders that are going through the long lap penalty route later on. But he's up against it. It's an unlikely back-to-back win for Joel Kelso Naranjito, but he certainly had a weekend to remember in Portimao. So far, it's been a weekend to remember, as we mentioned at the top of the show, for the Estrella Galicia squad. Rueda and Moreira will start first and second, and both of them have been seriously impressive so far this weekend.
Yeah, they have. Rueda fastest on Friday, fastest obviously on Saturday because he took pole position, quickest in warm-up this morning. He's on pole position by half a second, and you don't need us to tell you how strong the level of competition in this field is and just how truly competitive it is. So for Rueda to take pole position by half a second means he's clearly doing something right. And credit goes to his teammate Diogo Moreira, who managed to get himself up into second on the grid in the afternoon session, in the hotter conditions of Saturday afternoon. He was fastest of all in that session, of course not quickest overall, because Rueda's Q1 time was the quickest time of Saturday. But a tremendous effort from Moreira to get himself up to second, and as we'll go through the grid once the riders form up, a standout performance from the rider in third as well. A first front row of his career for Marco Tapia on the Leopard Impala Junior Team machine. So you could argue a rather unlikely front row of the grid on paper, with Daniel Holgado, the dominant championship leader, heading row 2 today.
Well, just to give an indication of how dominant Rueda has been this weekend, that lap in qualifying was the new fastest ever lap in the Junior Moto3 World Championship, a record that is stood since 2018 by a certain Dennis Foggia, who you may well know. He's just won the last Moto3 Grand Prix. Also, that lap would have been good enough for the front row of the grid in the World Championship the last time they visited here in Aragon for the Aragon GP, for the Teruel GP 1 week later, when he'd already had a week's worth of track time experience under the belt. It still would have put him on the front of the third row of the grid. So it was some pace by Rueda, and as a result, he's been half a second clear all weekend long. All things are pointing towards, if he gets the whole shot, if he gets into his rhythm early, he's going to be a very hard man to stop. But if we know that, certainly the rest of the grid do.
Yeah, and it's so difficult as we look at the Xabi Zurutuza fan club. If you've just joined us, we won't tell you whether they're celebrating a win or mourning a rather difficult result. We'll let you watch that for yourself a little bit later on. As the Aspar team get ready, the 96 of the championship leader, Daniel Holgado, who, as you mentioned, Jack, he's going to have his work cut out to add another victory today, because it does look as if Rueda has the superior pace as pit lane opens. You see Rueda just in the front of shot on the 95 for the Estrella Galicia team. But yeah, it is going to be crucial early on that they try and disrupt his rhythm. He clearly has an incredible pace on his own. But yeah, Moto3 races generally aren't raced on your own. You tend to have quite a lot of company around you. So Rueda will be keen on making the start, and if he can get himself some clear tarmac and get into his rhythm without anyone disrupting it, you would imagine he's going to be very, very difficult to stop. But as we always say, Moto3 Junior World Championship races are not won on paper. And the 3 races that we had here last year were all won from row 8. But here's what happened in qualifying yesterday, with Rueda taking his maiden pole position.
Yes, I'm happy because it's my first podium in Moto3, and I am very happy to my team for working this weekend, and thanks for my team and my sponsor and my family.
The poleman heading around on the sighting lap, Jose Antonio Rueda, looking to hand the Estrella Galicia team what would be their first win of 2021. Of course, they have a 1-2 on the grid. You saw Diogo Moreira as well, celebrating with his teammate in the pit box. So as they follow up then, how surprised should we be then by Jose Antonio Rueda taking pole position today? Well, if you look deep into the results from last year, maybe not that surprised. Now, you might remember last year, of course, we had wet-dry qualifying, which led to a rather mixed-up grid on the Saturday and Sunday, when we, of course, raced here over 2 days last year, and we saw Ivan Guevara really explode onto the scene with 3 victories, all from 22nd on the grid. Well, Rueda was another rider who got really badly caught out by the conditions in qualifying. He had to start all 3 races last year from 33rd on the grid, back of row 11, and yet he came back to score points, including a top 10 in race 3. Scored points on all 3 occasions, including a top 10, which from 33rd on the grid is no small feat. So he clearly is a quick rider, full stop, but he's a very quick rider around Motorland Aragon, and here he is up on pole position, the first of his career, and he'll be looking to add to his podium that he took with the fastest lap back in Barcelona. And with the pack so tightly congested, Jack, Holgado's got this comfortable, at the moment, lead in the championship of some 69 points, but from Altola in second place all the way back to, well, you could go all the way as far as back as Josito Garcia in 12th position, just 30 points, covering some 11 riders from second backwards in the championship. So a victory here for Rueda could slingshot him right up into the mix for second in the points.
Yeah, it's certainly tight at the moment. And as you said, should we be surprised by Rueda? You mentioned his form in 2020. Well, he was on the podium, second place finish here in 2019 as well. He likes this place. That's what team manager Kev Coughlin said earlier. He's always gone well here. Finished second that day back in 2019, minus certain Ethan Guevara, and we all know how good he is around here, having won all 3 races in 2020 from the 8th row of the grid. Here is a man that you should be keeping your eye on, not only today, but for the future as well. Hotly tipped to be the man to replace Pedro Acosta in the Akiayo Red Bull KTM squad in 2022. He's already had a bit of experience on the KTM machine for them. In touch with Grassini as well about possibly moving up to the World Championship with them. So a lot of well-established Moto3 teams understand the talent that the Brazilian has got. He's yet to really showcase that to his full potential in this series.
The points don't really match the potential that he's shown, have they, so far this season, which is a shame for Moreira, because he's certainly showed that potential and he's shown what he's capable of so far this year. But yeah, he hasn't scored any points whatsoever since the second race of the season, which was the first of the 2 they had in Valencia, where he was on the podium. So it's clear that if he can put it all together and get it to the flag, he's going to be somewhere near the front, and he'll be eyeing up a second podium of the season later on today. And really, I suppose, for the Estrella Galicia team and also for Moreira, he'll be looking to latch onto the back of Rueda if he does get the whole shot and try and go with him, because you can't imagine there are many riders on pure pace who'll be able to.
No, that's exactly the plan, I think. Certainly he'll be the only man out there on the grid that will be quite happy to just sit behind Rueda. He'll want Rueda to drag both himself and Moreira clear. Let's see what he's able to do. Here's a championship leader then, Daniel Holgado. What a year he's having so far. The man from Alicante has been off the podium just once in the 6 races we've had, as you can see there, and he finished 4th on that occasion. Consistency has been there. That's at 4 different circuits that we've been to as well, and he looks being right in amongst it today as well. Another man, the World Championship awaits. There is no doubt in that. He will be moving up. He is the big favourite to wrap up the championship. He's not going to be able to do it today, but he can certainly go a long way towards helping his cause.
Yeah, it's remarkable that we've been talking in the Moto2 class earlier on today how a championship could be decided today, and we saw a Superstock title decided. They're only at the halfway stage of the season in this Moto3 Junior World Championship. 6 races still remain in the season, including the one that you're about to see. They have 2 races at Jerez next month on the weekend of the 21st, 22nd of August. They then race alongside the Grand Prix classes at Misano in September before a double-header, 2 races at Valencia for the final round of the season. And speaking of riders who've raced alongside the Grand Prix riders, Takuma Matsuyama has raced with them because he's got some Moto3 Grand Prix experience earlier this season. And back on form this weekend. Didn't have the best of weekends, it's fair to say, in Portimao, but back on form here and back on the second row.
Yeah, good to see him back in amongst it, as you can see, of the 6 races so far this year. When he's been competitive, when he's been up there and he's seen the checkered flag, yet to finish outside of the top 7 with that second place finish in Valencia. Aside from that, though, 2 DNFs. I remember a crash at Barcelona, 23rd place finish as well. So hopefully he can keep amongst it, as will this man be hoping as well, Ivan Ortola, because at the moment he's the closest rival to Dani Holgado. That 10th place finish in Catalonia came from a long way back after starting from pit lane, was it, I believe. He had to do all of the hard work there. He eventually managed to finish 2nd behind Holgado in the 2nd race.
Well, when he sat down for his lunch yesterday after qualifying 1, he might have feared he'd be doing the same again, because he had a technical problem in qualifying 1 yesterday and didn't set a time, so he was staring at a back of the grid start if he couldn't get out there and get a time on the board in quali 2. Fortunately, he did and got himself up to 6th on the grid. Here is Josito Garcia then, and he's sending a message that we all echo from the entire FIM CEV Repsol paddock. Get well soon to Harrison Voigt, his teammate, number 21, who was involved in that terrible accident last time out at Portimao. Pretty terrible injuries that he suffered, a broken tibia, fibula and his femur as well. He spent 11 days in hospital on the Algarve before finally being able to travel back to Barcelona following his crash at the last round. And of course, we wish him a speedy recovery and hope to see him back on this grid very, very soon.
Yeah, a long road to recovery for the likeable Australian, but we're all behind Harry Voigt. Hopefully, we'll see him back on the grid. I think at the end of this season certainly looks unlikely, but a man that was making great progress as well. Such a shame, but hopefully he can be back amongst it, fully fit in 2022, injury-free as well, because he's not had a good time of it. A broken collarbone earlier in the year at Valencia as well. So as you said, Sudders, quite rightly, get well soon, Harry Voigt. We can't wait to see you back on the grid. Here's the best performance in his debut Junior World Championship season so far for Zonta van den Gorberg. Talking about people that like this place, he certainly does. A hat-trick of wins in the European Talent Cup last year, and he's starting, him and the team, Dad of course to the right-hand side there, former 500cc racer Jürgen van der Gorberg, plus a man that you might know, crew chief was of John McPhee, now of Jake Dixon, Mark Woodage, helping out in that camp as well. They finally got that Moto3 singing, and were able to see the very best of Zonta van den Gorberg. He's hoping for a good result here. He's certainly got the form around this place to be able to put it together.
Absolutely, he was supreme here last year, wasn't he? Like, David Alonso came into this round with such a dominant championship position, and he made us start to doubt it, didn't he? He made us start to think the championship might well change in favour of van der Gorberg. 3 brilliant wins. Here's David Muñoz, who starts 9th on the grid, and he is the sole Muñoz on the grid, which will make it slightly less confusing for us, if nothing else. Although in all seriousness, we wish his teammate Daniel Muñoz well. He had a crash earlier in the weekend, and unfortunately is not going to be taking any further part in this weekend. He won't be racing today, so David Muñoz going it alone for the team, and he starts from the back of row 3.
Just whilst we get a chance, let me just run you through the 7 riders that are going to be going through the long lap penalty loop here. Colin Vaya, Nicola Carraro, Mario Adji, Morosi, Joel Kelso, Gerard Riou, all have to go through the long lap penalty once, whereas Josh Watley, great disappointment this for Josh Watley, having taken a best ever qualifying performance of 10th, front in row 4 of the grid. He's got to go through it. This man right here, the number 70, on 2 occasions. Bitter disappointment for him, having done such a great job on Saturday, to then be handed that. The reason for it, Sudders, of course, because he was
second offence, essentially. Yeah, those who watched in Portimao might remember that Watley had to take a long lap penalty there too for the same offence, which was essentially slow riding in a qualifying or practice session. And because it's a second offence, long lap penalty becomes 2.
Just as we've seen in the World Championship, race control there, race direction, trying to clamp down on dawdling and the usual Moto3 antics as much as possible. The same here as well, trying to set a precedent. If they learn here, hopefully they'll take it through into the World Championship. But unfortunately, as we've seen in the World Championship, via the fact that we've got 7 long lap penalties, there's a fair bit of dawdling goes on here as well. Good performance from a couple of junior talent team riders, the first of which Mario Adji, another man that will be cursing his luck in Barcelona, having started on pole position, was in brilliant form, leading the race, going into the turn 10 for the final time before being pushed wide by Danny Muñoz, and then was collected by Josito Garcia in the latter stages of race 2. Didn't have much luck in Portimao as well. Maybe today is the day for Super Mario.
Let's find out. He'll have to overcome a long lap penalty to do so, but here is how they line up. Rueda on a debut pole position ahead of Morera and Tapia. Shout out for him, that's his first front row. Dardo, Matsuyama and Ortola on row 2. Garcia, van den Gorberg and Muñoz on row 3. First ever top 10 qualifying. He's been threatening that as well, Josh Watley. 10th on the grid for him, although he has 2 long lap penalties ahead of Mario Adji, who has 1. Buasri starts 12th ahead of David Alonso. Marcos Uriarte, who got a podium, of course, last time out, and Joel Kelso, who won last time out, he starts 15th. Salvador, Nishimura and Fusco on row 3. Then we have Detweiler, Sayarifudin, Asman and Lunetta. Scott Ogden starts 22nd, more on him in a second. Filippo Farioli 23rd and Riou in 24th. Then we have Aegius, Volpi and Colin Vaya, another of the long lap penalty gang. And we have Rouget, Ruda and O'Shea, Eddie O'Shea on row 10, before we get to Morosi, Carraro, Real, and Danny Muñoz shows up as 34th on the grid, but we can confirm to you he will not be starting due to the injury he had earlier in the weekend. But yeah, mention of Scott Ogden, 6th in the championship at the moment for the Brit. I suppose in terms of championship position, he's the rider most out of position on the grid, although in terms of his qualifying form, you perhaps say he isn't, because that has been a bit of an Achilles heel for him, for Scott Ogden. But you have to say, Jack, never say never. 22nd on the grid. Now, didn't hold back his the rider he replaced at the Aspar team here last year.
Well, I said to him at breakfast this morning, if you want a good omen to take you into today, guess who started from 22nd on the grid on an Aspar bike 1 year ago? It was only Ethan Guevara. So I said, come on, pull your finger out. We're expecting the same from you today. I think he'll do well to replicate that. But he is confident he's got the race pace. He was saying that on one lap, he's just struggling to put it together. There's a lot of lads out there that for 35 minutes, 40 minutes of a 45-minute qualifying session don't really do that much whatsoever, but suddenly are able to stick in a brand new tyre and romp towards a solid qualifying position, and that's what's holding him back at the moment. But the good thing about Scott Ogden is his consistency. So far, he's one of only 3 men to have scored points in every race this season. That stands him in good stead, especially because the other 2 to have done it are the men 1st and 2nd in the championship in Holgado and Ortola. So if he can continue that run through, chipping away bit by bit, he should hopefully hold his spot 6, maybe even top 5 in the championship, which I'm sure at the start of the year he would have snapped your hand off. So fingers crossed he can start to build his way through and pick off a few places from row 8 of the grid. Yeah,
with one exception, all of those points finishes for Scott Ogden have been top 10s as well, including most notably, of course, that podium in race 2 in Barcelona. Championship standings then, Holgado has a 69-point lead over Ortola and David Munoz, who'll be looking to close that down today. They've got 6 races remaining to try and eat into that gap, so they're going to have to start getting a move on very, very soon. Just finishing off on Scott Ogden's situation, of course, the first lap is going to be crucial for him, because one thing that we noticed last year with Guevara is he made so much of that ground from 22nd up to the win on the first lap of the race. He just carved through the field on the opening lap. And Ogden has shown on many occasions this season that one thing he does know how to do, and that's how to produce a Sunday afternoon comeback. So he'll be looking to do the same again. But the main thing that he's got to try and do, first of all, is get through this tight and tricky turn 1 unscathed.
Well, Guevara made mincemeat of everyone else. By the time we got to the 3rd race of the weekend, he was at the front from 22nd. By the time we got onto lap 3, it was incredible stuff. And it was that performance that was able to change the momentum in the championship. Without that hat-trick of victories, he would not be the 2020 Junior World Champion. We might only have 1 race today, but can someone else, other than Daniel Holgado, find that little bit extra to change the momentum in the championship? Because so far, it's been so good for Danny Holgado. He starts this one from the front of the 2nd row of the grid. Outside of the front row, for the first time, Marco Tapia on the Leopard machine. And then we've got 2 Estrella Galicia bikes. Moreira starts 2nd. Rueda on pole for the first time in his career. He's the pre-race favourite. He's got the pace to pull away. Can anybody get in his way? Here we go. Junior World Championship action from Aragon is underway. Rueda fires from pole position. Has he got the start? It looks good to me. It's only a pocket rocket. It's the 95, and he's going to be joined behind by the championship leader Holgado. He fires through from the 2nd row of the grid to settle into 2nd, with Moreira there in 3rd. Yeah, great launch from Holgado. He just got straight through the middle of the 2 Estrella Galicia bikes and up into 2nd place. It wasn't such a great start, unfortunately, for Tapia on the inside of the front row on the Leopard bike. He's been shuffled back to 6th. He's got Ortola just ahead of him, and I believe it'll be Matsuyama just in front of them as well. I think he's 4th in line as we look. Yes, indeed he is. As we get a ride about, it looked like one of the Gliese bikes running wide. The unmistakable bright lime green colours. I think it must have been maybe Morosi out there at the back of the field around wide, but we'll find out in a moment. But as it is at the moment, this is what they all feared. Rueda out front into his rhythm. Can he get through this back straight unscathed is the main question. Holgado knows that if he's going to get on terms with Rueda and stop him getting away, he needs to attack early. Don't be surprised to see Holgado get his elbows out early. That's a big crash. The 33 gone down. That is... Bouazri, unfortunately. It is. Yeah. Tachikon Bouazri having had a brilliant career best qualifying of 12th yesterday. Oh, that was a big, big high side out of turn 9 there. Great to see straight back onto his feet. At the front though, still Rueda leading away. And I was about to say, don't be surprised if Holgado has a big lunge somewhere, because he knows he has to try and disrupt the rhythm of Rueda, who already is just edging bit by bit clear. couple of bike lengths at the moment. The back straight is going to be crucial, though.
Yeah, there was a big mistake down there from someone at turn 12. It might have been Kelso, actually. It looked like one of the AGR bikes, but we'll have a look as they come through this sector, who dropped a long way wide. Rueda leads it at the moment. We've got Josh Watley, who's had a slow sector 3. They have already been communicated, by the way, that they can have their long lap penalties, so maybe Watley has already taken one of those, either that or it was him that made the mistake and ran wide. And of course, with 2 long lap penalties to take, he can precious afford those as they come out of the final corner to complete the first lap. It is Rueda who leads across the line, but Holgado is right in touch with him, and already the top 3 have a very slight gap, half a second in hand over the chasing group led by Ortola. Yeah,
they're just starting to stretch it out at the front of these 3, Rueda, Holgado and Moreira. They have got that advantage to Ortola in 4th. He knew he had to make a move on Matsuyama, the Japanese rider just holding him up, the man that sits 2nd in the championship. He's got ahead of him though. He can now get down to business and see if he can claw in the Brazilian ahead.
Yeah, definitely wasn't Kelso who made that mistake. The reason I know that, he's up to 10th already from his fairly lowly group position, so he might still be in with a shout here of getting on terms with this leading group. There's your confirmation at the bottom of the screen of the riders that now can serve their long lap penalties. The 70, of course, they can see on screen of Josh Watley, who's already down in 21st, has to take 2 trips through there. We've got yellows out at turn 4, so we think there's been an incident there as well on this second lap, but no change at the front just yet. Still a 1-3 for the Estrella Galicia team. We think it might have been Eddie O'Shea involved down at turn 4, unfortunately, the British Talent Team rider. He's not come through the first sector, sadly, on this first lap. But at the moment, Holgado sandwiched between the 2 Estrella Galicia bikes, and Rueda looking comfortable, but not dominating just yet.
Great start from Rueda then, from pole position. The first time he sat there, I'm sure there were nerves in the belly of the 95, because everyone is expecting him to win this race. If he doesn't, I'm sure it would be a disappointment given the weekend he's had so far, but so far so good. This will do him the world of good, being able to hit the front early, get into his rhythm and hopefully pull clear. But at the moment, Holgado is not allowing that to happen. He's gone under the radar, which seems surprising to say for the man that's leading the championship by an impressive margin, but he hasn't really been in amongst it at the sharp end all weekend long. 4th in qualifying was good, but you normally expecting to see him up on the front row, but he really is finding his feet on Sunday as we see Eddie O'Shea's British Talent Team machine roll away. He went down at turn 4. Fingers crossed we've not just seen him yet. He is up and okay. At the front though, another lap ticks by, and it's still Rueda that leads the way.
Yeah, and Kelso, the fastest rider on track now, he's getting up to speed now. Whether he's running, whether he's feeling slightly better now, whether he's just running on pure adrenaline, he's getting on with it. He's up into the top 10, fastest rider on track, although they're all, with a couple of exceptions in that leading group, lapping in the mid to high 158. So it's a quick pace up front as Garcia carves up the inside of Kelso, trying to halt his progress. And then up the inside as well of that must be Tapia on the Leopard bike, who's been shuffled a little bit back from his front row start. He's now down to 8th. Elsewhere in this leading group, Mario Adji's in a good position as well. He's just ahead of that Leopard bike. You can see him there on the number 16. He's still got to go to the long lap penalty, and with a little bit of a gap building already to the pack behind, this might be the time to take it, and indeed he does.
So there goes Adji through the long lap penalty loop. Joel Kelso would have seen that. He has to go through it himself still as well. Adji losing what, about 3 seconds there. He's just going to file in front of Marcus Uriarte. So he's just dropped down to 11th from 7th. So 4 places lost for the Indonesian rider. If he can get his head down, he might be able to tag himself back onto this leading group in a couple of laps. But he has got a bit of work to do now, has Adji.
Yeah, Scott Ogden, update on him. He's not made the progress that perhaps he would have hoped from his 22nd position on the grid. He's up to 18th. He's 6 seconds off the lead at the moment, so he's already, unfortunately, been detached from any sort of leading group that's getting away at the front. You might see him in the back of shot on the Gas Aspar bike, but at the moment, we've got a leading group of, it looks like 6 or 7 of them, maybe slightly less than that actually, because there's a slight gap now because of the missing Mario Adji, who of course has jumped out of that leading group with his long lap penalty. So we've got a leading group of, as they flash through the screen, yeah, it's around about 6 riders with maybe a 4 and a 2 batting at the front, and Ortola making progress. He's now past Moreira, who will now look to just keep his powder dry maybe at the back of this leading group, or is he going to go up the inside already? He's going to try, but he's not going to get through on Ortola. So 4 riders away at the front at the moment, and Ortola is the fastest of them, fastest lap lap of the race last time around.
Yeah, he's looked good here as Ortola. Didn't get the start he would have wanted, but he's picked his way through the field quite impressively so far to find himself sat in third. And I tell you what, having got ahead of Moreira, he's quickly detached him and he's straight onto the rear wheel of Holgado, piling the pressure on the 96. And he knows he has to finish ahead of Holgado. 69 points adrift with only 5 races remaining in the championship after this one. He can't afford to lose yet more points in the favour of Holgado.
Absolutely. Holgado, though, he's made precious few mistakes. Here's Kelso. He's just did a little gesture with his left hand there. I wonder whether he's just communicating to Garcia that he's going through the long lap penalty lane as it really bunches up now amongst that leading group. Kelso, I think, has gone through the long lap penalty lane. You probably see him flash at the bottom of the screen. There he is, through the long lap penalty lane. So he's now served that, and it'll be interesting to see where he comes out in relation to Mario Aggi, who, of course, he was battling with at the time that he took his penalty. But yeah, this leading group of 6 now, it seems to be bunching up. The pace maybe not as fast as we thought up the front. Whether Rueda is just keeping it calm at the moment because he feels he's got an advantage when the tyre starts to wear, we'll find out in the time of this race. But at the moment, there's a bit of a queue forming up behind him.
So far, so good for Takuma Matsuyama there as well. He has dropped back a place from 5th to 6th with David Muñoz ahead of him, but he's been towed along here and being dragged clear of the fight for 7th place, which is currently now being fronted by Josito Garcia after Joel Kelso went through the long lap penalty loop. And here we have changing the lead for the very first time. And I tell you what, Rueda has got a fight on his hands here, because not only has Holgado gone through, but Ortola has managed to find a way through as well. And the young Spaniard is up against it. He's not going to have it his own way here in Aragon. Holgado, the championship leader, leads us across the line.
Yeah, he does, and it's going to be interesting now to see what Rueda chooses to do, because ideally he'd want to be in his rhythm out front and just set his own pace. He's not going to be able to do that now. He's got his teammate just behind him in Moreira, and we'll see if there's any sort of team strategy between those two not to attack each other too much. But whatever the plan at the moment, it's not going to plan for the Estrella Galicia team. From 1-2 on the grid, the top 2 in the championship have now shuffled them back. Rueda having a look at the inside of Ortola, but there's not going to be any way through there into the fast left-hander. And yeah, this is interesting, this, because Holgado, who didn't exactly show flashy pace through the early part of the weekend in Portimao, but he's always there. He appeared on race day and put himself in a very good position to very nearly win the race. He's doing it again.
Here's a replay of the race start then. It was Rueda from pole position that took the whole shot, but just look at the jump that Holgado made from 4th on the grid, quickly ahead of Moreira and settling into 2nd. Great start from the championship leader. He knew he had to do that as well. He settled in behind Rueda since, and now hits the front.
Absolutely, it's very, very tight through that first corner, as we've already mentioned. It's such a difficult first corner as we cut back to the leaders. Now Ortola up the inside of Daniel Holgado. Rueda still keeping a bit of a watching brief in 3rd, but this is now interesting. Ortola hits the front for the first time, really, in this race. We saw in the European Talent Cup race a few moments ago that you don't really want to lead onto this back straight, certainly not at the end of the race when the points are finally handed out. But we'll see what kind of drive Ortola gets. He gets a pretty good launch off turn 15, actually. Puts 1 or 2 bike lengths ahead of Holgado, but look how quickly that closes up.
Tell you what, you don't want to lead out the final chicane if you're someone the size of Ivan Ortola. He is noticeably a lot bigger, especially compared to the likes of Holgado and Rueda, who are probably no more than 5'2", 5'3". Ortola is all arms and legs on that KTM machine, but he makes it work so far. Here he comes, he's looking to fight back alongside Rueda in the fight for 2nd. Moreira's on the outside, as is Muñoz as well, 4 abreast into the opening corner, and Muñoz, oh, I'll tell you what, that was sketchy for a second there, but he gets it done, and suddenly the 64 is through to 3rd. Yeah,
Rueda getting beaten up a bit here, isn't he? He's down to 4th now, and that's certainly not how he envisaged this race going, given the pace he'd shown earlier in the weekend. We've got this leading group now of 6. The last of them at the moment is Takuma Matsuyama. The group behind, which is led by Uriarte, the podium finisher last time out, they're lapping on a similar pace, but unfortunately they're the best part of 3 seconds in arrears. Just an update on the riders at the start of the race who had to serve long lap penalties. Unfortunately, Carraro didn't serve his, so he's now got 2 of them.
Well, I don't think there's any excuse for that. He knew that it was coming. He saw the signs everywhere. So now 2 long lap penalties for Carraro. I tell you what, the reason he might not have taken it is because he's, what, 3 seconds adrift at the back of the pack. Something may have gone awry for the TM Racing machine. We'll concentrate at the front, though, because it's going to be all change here as they come over the brow of the hill and in towards turn 12. Holgado still leading the way. Ortola down to second, and Rueda now starting to fight back, finding a way through on Muñoz. Yeah,
warming to the task now, isn't he? Back up the inside into third place, and we'll see now, I think, what kind of pace he's got. He's now having a go at Ortola, who got a bit missed. Well, I don't think he was quite in the position he wanted to be there. Got out on the curbs on the way into turn 15 and just about managed to hang on to it. And now we'll see if he can repay the compliment to Holgado, who breezed past him on the back straight last time around. Ortola not finding it quite as easy. You already mentioned, Jack, the issues he's dealing with, not through any fault of his own, but even in the slipstream, he can't do anything about Holgado, and if anything, he's losing a spot.
I tell you what, Rueda was a lucky boy there. He nearly had his front end chopped off by Ortola. You can see the desperation from him almost from Rueda. He thought he was going to have it all his way today, but it's not that way at all as he looks to fight back on Ortola here. It's 3 abreast into the opening corner. Rueda will surely move through to second. He's going to hit the front. He's so late on the brakes there. Somehow he gets it stopped though, and the 95 is back at the lead of this race.
Yeah, this will all be music to the ears of Muñoz in third place now, who's suddenly got a real slingshot on the 2 of them ahead of him. Can he now get in amongst this leading pair? But brilliant riding from Rueda, who's clearly just decided he's had enough of this. And there is Muñoz now up into second place, up the inside of Holgado. That's the highest he's been in this race. Of course, going it alone with his namesake, Daniel Muñoz, out injured. And he's doing a good job at the moment. David Muñoz, don't forget, he's essentially equal second in the championship with Ortola, level on 64 points. So don't rule him out for a late championship charge yet either.
And this is going to be a concern for the other 5 riders in this lead group, because Rueda, yes, he's been fast over 1 lap, but his race pace has been sensational. Kev Coughlin, team manager of the Estrella Galicia squad, reckons he's got half a second a lap on everybody else when the tyres start to wear. We're going to see that now. This is his opportunity with 6 laps having ticked by, track temperature starting to rise as well. This is his opportunity to pull clear, and at the moment he's looking like he's taking it.
Take about half a second lap on the last time around. Joel Kelso did a 1:59.4 on the last lap around. That was 7/10 faster than the leaders and half a second faster than the next fastest guy on that lap. So Kelso, you might see him when they come out to 15. You'll probably see him on the 66, the HER red bike, just trying to get on terms. There he is, leading that chase group, trying to get in on terms with the leaders. He appears at the moment to have some pretty good pace. He might not be out of this yet. The winner last time out in Portimao, he's bringing that group along with him. We'll see how many can go along with him as Rueda tries to defend and does hold off Muñoz out front. But this leading group of 6 at the moment, it might become more than 6 very shortly.
It would be some performance from Kelso. As we said earlier on, he was on his bed for, what, 18 hours a day for almost 2 weeks. The poor lad was seriously ill, but he's somehow starting to battle his way through against the odds as we're seeing who's this drop down the timing screen.
And it's Kelso again. He's in the 59s again, a 59.5. He was a second faster than Matsuyama in 6th up ahead of him. He is charging towards this leading group. He's doing a pace that no one else can match, although to be fair, Mario Aggi, his fellow long lap penalty rider from earlier on, and Garcia in that leading group, they're all pretty much going with him. Even Uriarte and Tapia, they're in the 59s. The second group that you can see just at the back of screen, they are clearly faster at the moment than the riders ahead of them who are lapping in the low to mid 2 minutes range. These guys are fast, they're closing fast at the moment.
Some performance this from Kelso to drag them along. He's got Josito Garcia for company, as you said. Just incidentally, we said someone dropping down the timing screens at the Laglisse Academy machine of Morosi down in 30th at the moment. It looks as though he's stopped out on track. 8 laps remaining then, 7.5 now as they come through Marc Marquez corner. And look at this, Kelso is absolutely flying. The advantage, as you said, only 1.5 seconds between him and Matsuyama, the rear wheel of. They're going to be with them. I tell you what, we could have ourselves almost 10-12 riders fighting for victory here in the latter stages, but at the moment it's still Rueda leading the way. He's trying to drag them all clear, but he's not doing a good job of it just yet. I think the alarm bells might start to be ringing in a couple of laps if these guys can latch themselves on.
Absolutely, but Holgado is still sitting there in third. Ortola just behind him, who's trying to, and this is, I think, going to be a feature as well. You'll see quite a lot of this later in the race, the weaving down the back straight. no one wants to provide a slipstream for the other, but you really don't have much of a choice of it, as Holgado gets that slipstream and is able to go into second place. Well, all too briefly. He might get eased wide there as they then flick it left through the final corner. Can Muñoz get up the inside of him? I think he just did as we look out our window. He does still sit in third, but it is very, very close to that top 6 as they go across the line. Once again, they're all in the 2 minutes range, apart from Matsuyama, actually, who did a 1:59.9. Slower lap that time from Kelso. His momentum halted slightly. He was faster than the leaders, but not by as much.
Rueda getting bullied again. That was a late move from Muñoz to move through, and now he's going to hit the front of the 64. That is a brave move from the Cardoso racing machine. Oh, Holgado around the outside, and here comes Rueda and Ortola. Oh, it's all getting tasty at the front now. This is going to be helping this chasing group. They're going to be with them momentarily if they continue like this. But after all of that, the hand of apology from Holgado. It is Rueda who's back at the front, but goodness gracious me, that was getting tight then.
Yeah, exactly. And if I was Rueda, I'd be giving the hand gesture to say, just follow me, guys, because this is not helping us at the moment. This is giving the likes of Kelso, Adji and Garcia a little bit of encouragement. That gap is visibly closing now between 6th and 7th. It's now Moreira, I think, who's at the back of this group. He's lost out to Matsuyama, who's the quiet man, really, in this leading group. He's been sort of keeping his powder dry, but don't rule him out yet. He was the quickest of the leading 6 on that last lap, and he might well be starting to warm to the task here.
It's anyone's guess who's going to be fighting for victory on the final lap at this rate. There is that chasing group of 6 battling the way through at the moment. It involves Kelso, Adji, Uriarte, Tapia, Van den Gorberg and Salvador. We could have 13 riders fighting at the front, but here is the leader. Jose Antonio Rueda. Down the back straight they go. Moves to the left-hand side to try and cut off the slipstream as much as possible. Here comes Holgado. He's going to dive in, is he? No, no way around on the inside. He's going to have to go the long way. Not that it matters, though. Look at that. The pace of that gas machine is evident there. The 96 of Holgado rolls around the outside and retakes the lead of this one. Ortola as well. That's an audacious move. Surely he's not going to pull that one off. No, he's not. Here comes Rueda. Can he fight back as they cross the line? Only 6 laps remaining, and it's getting really spicy at the front here. Ortola hard onto the brakes, finds second spot, and it's these 4 battling it out once again. As Sud has said, Matsuyama keeping his powder dry, as is Moreira as well. Maybe they're just playing a waiting game as they all start to filter up again. Rueda clearly feels he's got the pace to be able to roll through there at turns 3 and 4, but just can't find a way through. Ortola will sit behind, quite happy as they roll through turn 5. And look, they're with them now. They are with them. Kelso has done an incredible job. Remember, he's had a long lap penalty, as has Mario Adji behind him as well. But it's his hard work, the 66, that means that they're in this leading group. Well, we spoke to him earlier on today, and he said, oh, I'm not expecting much, you know, I've had a difficult weekend. I think his expectations might be changing now. Up the inside of Matsuyama, as goes Garcia as well, as does Adji. And suddenly this chasing group are in amongst it. 5.5 laps remaining. And surely someone from either Kelso, Adji or Garcia, having shown the pace that they have, could be one of the favourites to win. Turn 13 here with Holgado holding on. Here comes Ortola, though. He's going to be alongside him. Have they managed to find a way through? No, they haven't. Still Holgado that leads the way as they come down the back straight. And that gas machine just has the top-end advantage. It looks over the Honda. Of course, the gas just a rebadged KTM. Ortola with his weight disadvantage and height disadvantage. I'll be surprised if he's able to draft past. Here comes the Honda of Rueda, again looking up the inside, but look at that, Ortola is late on the brakes, he's going to run wide though. Holgado finds his way back through, Rueda looking to squeeze through a gap that just isn't there. And Kelso is 5th. What a performance this is from the 66. He comes alongside both Muñoz and Rueda. He's going to dive through up to 3rd. What a ride from Joel Kelso. A long lap penalty hasn't stopped him one iota, and from being 15th on the grid and having a long lap penalty, he's up in the mix and he's going to hit the front very shortly. Oh, big moment out of turn 3. He just about holds on to for 3rd place, though not for long, because there goes Josito Garcia, the other man that he's dragged along. And Antonio Rueda, having started from pole and been the pre-race favourite, is down to 6th. He's getting bullied out there. Muñoz fights back. What a final 4.5 laps we're going to have here at Motorland Aragon. But amid all the drama, it is still the gas Gaviota Aspar machine, the championship leader of Daniel Holgado, that leads the way. Ortola tucked in behind, knowing that he has to finish ahead of the 96 to keep his championship hopes alive. Remember, 150 points, 5 races remaining after this one. It could be a lead of almost 75 if Holgado was to win it, but let's not speak too soon, because there goes Ortola up to the front for the first time in a long time, and now they're swarming over the rear of Holgado. Garcia is there, Kelso is there, Muñoz is there, and they're all going to try and jump ahead of the championship leader on the brakes into the final corner, because Ortola has just made a little bit of a jump. The elastic at the front just starting to stretch there, but again, look at the power of that Aspar machine. He's able to draft his way right back up onto the rear wheel of Ortola. Out to the final corner we go there. They're going to flash past our commentary position, just 4 remaining side by side. Is Holgado on Ortola? As here comes Rueda, he swings to the inside. Kelso looking for a move through as well, and the Australian looking for back-to-back victories. Now through to second spot. Garcia holds off Muñoz's advantages as Kelso hits the front. The comeback is complete. What a ride this is. The 66, may I remind you, 15th on the grid, a long lap penalty. Only on a bike for the first time in 2 weeks on Monday, after being pretty badly ill. But he's now leading into the final stage of this race. Is fitness going to be a key, having exerted so much to be able to get himself to the front of this race? It doesn't look like it at all. Naranjito, of course, sporting the orange on the top of the helmet as a result of the ginger locks underneath, could be on course here for a sensational brace of victories in Portimao and here in Aragon. If he can get his head down and continue with the pace that's allowed him to move through from outside of the top 10 up to first spot, I don't think anyone's going to be able to live with him. Runs slightly wide though, clearly pushing hard through 12 as he then flick right at 13. Ortola unable to find an answer there as Muñoz in the back of the picture picks his way through on championship leader Holgado. Now we get to see how much grunt the 66 of Kelso has, the KTM-powered AGR machine. At the moment, looks okay alongside the MTA of Ortola, but there goes the 24, able to draft his way through, and Ortola hits the front once more. Garcia with a big look up the inside, no way through. Muñoz trying to roll around the outside. We've got 12 riders here in this lead group, all fighting over the same piece of tarmac. 3 laps now remaining, and here comes Holgado, the championship leader, looking to get back in amongst it, as does Rueda as well. He's popped out from nowhere as the diminutive Spaniard through to third, with Muñoz now second behind Ortola. Fastest final sector of the race coming from Rueda there at a crucial time as well. They did say he's got the pace on used tyres. Maybe now is his time to try and pick his way through to the front and take the victory, which everybody thought was his at the start of the race. Too early to say that, though, with the way this race has gone so far. Here is that move from Rueda. Look at that, he was down in 7th spot. Then hard on the brakes, picked his way through on Holgado, on Kelso, on Muñoz, on nearly Muñoz. Had a good look, wasn't able to get it done. Nervous faces in the AGR box. I'm sure they didn't expect this from Kelso. Just dropped back a little bit, down to 5th now as a result of them all punching up into the opening corner. As here comes Rueda up the inside, now into second. This is good stuff, great racecraft from the Spaniard. He's been up against it, bullied at times, you would have to say, by the older, the bigger, the more experienced riders, but he's finally picking his moment and finding his rhythm here Down the back straight we go. Ortola leading the way. You would imagine the flyweight, the lightweight Rueda is going to have the ability to draft his way through here. Makes life easier that there's a gap there on the inside for him to exploit as well. The 95 is at the front, is he? Yes, he is. And there goes Muñoz as well. He was able to use a little bit of double bubble on the slipstream to find his way through to second, but momentarily, of course, with Ortola finding a way back through. And now Kelso, he's finding a second wind. But meanwhile, Rueda leads with 2 laps to go here in Aragon. Into turn 2 we go. Ortola there, sat second with Muñoz behind. Holgado, Garcia, Uriarte has properly gone under the radar as well. The Laglisse Academy rider, he's up there now into 6th spot. And of course, don't forget that he was on the podium last time out. Still Rueda though that leads. It's all going to plan so far for the 95 with 1.5 laps remaining. The men 2nd and 3rd in the championship at the moment, of course, tied on points are both Ortola and Muñoz. This is a great result if things stay as they are, with Holgado down in 5th. But don't be surprised if we see them shuffle and shake, as they have already, with Holgado battling his way through on Garcia to take 4th. Through Marc Marquez corner, still Rueda leads the way. Ortola offering some close attention. Muñoz as well, as that opening 3, those leading trio, just able to broken ever so slightly clear. Holgado trying to go with them, but there is just pockets of spaces here and there just starting to open up. The pace of Rueda is just stretching this group out. They were nose to tail a couple of laps to go, but suddenly Rueda, having hit the front and putting his head down, is just starting to test a lot of the riders behind. Down the back straight we go on the penultimate time. The rear wheel just offering minimal grip for Rueda there. You can see him pumping on the rear tyre. He eventually gets it sat up though as he drives his way down this kilometre-long back straight here in Aragon. A dress rehearsal of what's to come in 1 lap's time. If Rueda leads, well, he may well have to give way to Ortola, but he finds a cutback almost. A brave move, couldn't work though, and it's Ortola that leads then and will start the final lap of this brilliant Junior World Championship race in 1st position. Rueda in 2nd, looking for a way through. Holgado's in amongst it as well. Who's going to lead through the opening corner? It is Rueda that retakes back control. Oh, that's Mario Aggi that's gone down. Disappointing end to a great race for Aggi, having been through the long lap penalty loop once. Oh, that's a great shame. The misfortune continues for the Indonesian. He's out of what would have been a top 10 finish. At the front, still Rueda leads, and surely he's going to be one of these 4 riders. Holgado looking to try and get himself in contention. 2nd spot, you would have to say, certainly with the power that Holgado has got beneath him, would be perfect down the back straight. Can he manage to find his way and position himself perfectly? Time running out for everyone else here. Rueda still leading. In towards the reverse corkscrew for the final time. Right, then left, no way through there. With Uriarte up to 5th, he has been the quiet man of this race. He's battled his way through. What a result that would be as well. Kelso, having done all the hard work earlier on, we did say maybe the fitness levels might strike later on, and it looks as though they have. He's just been drifted backwards now to 8th spot. Here we are then, into turn 12 for the final time. Still Rueda leading. Muñoz has found a move through on Holgado. That's going to be costly for the championship leader. He's going to have to find something special to draft his way through to victory from 4th. Into the chicane for the final time. No way through for anyone else. Rueda will lead them out the final corner, just as it was 1 lap ago. Can Ortola once again draft his way through? Rueda goes left and then right and then left once more, trying to break the slipstream as much as he possibly can do. He'll hug the white line on the left-hand side, go defensive. Ortola will go the long way around and surely get it done as well. There goes Muñoz, squeezing through the pair of them. The 64 of David Muñoz has squeezed through a gap that surely wasn't there, and is he going to be the man to take victory here? An unlikely one. Rueda goes left, Holgado goes right, but it's Muñoz that takes victory. Oh, what a race that was. David Muñoz, victorious. victorious in the Junior World Championship for the first time in his career. What a final lap. He started it in 4th, picked off the championship leader, and then squeezed his way through on both Ortola and Rueda into the final corner. What a performance from the man that will now sit 2nd in the championship and reignite his championship charts. Delight in the Apex Cardoso racing concern, and you can understand why as well. What a final lap from the 64. It shouldn't come as a surprise as well, because he's done that before in the Red Bull Rookies class. Victory there in Mugello and Jerez earlier on this year. Sits 2nd behind David Alonso, but he's done that so often in the Red Bull Rookies, waiting late and picking his chance off. Brilliant victory for David Muñoz, the first one, a debut victory here at Aragon. Second place goes the way of Jose Antonio Rueda, with 3rd going to championship leader Daniel Holgado. 4th in the end to Ortola. He'll be disappointed with that one. And Marcos Uriarte, sorry, taking the final place inside the top 5. Take a look at the championship standings momentarily here at Motorland Aragon. Holgado will still lead the way. His advantage has been cut down from 69 points with 5 races remaining. Of course, these guys head on next towards Jerez. A double there before joining the MotoGP World Championship in Misano, and then a double at Valencia to round out the year as well. Into Parc Fermé they come, with Rueda into 2nd, and there comes Muñoz into P1 for the very first time in his career. There goes the 64, celebrating with the Cardoso racing concern. Brilliant final lap from him, seems him move through from 4th to 1st on the final lap. Second to Rueda, as we said, with Holgado there in 3rd. Rueda, I'm sure, will be bitterly disappointed not to have taken victory, but that still stands a strong result for the 95, showing exactly what he's capable of this weekend with pole position. Holgado continues his incredible run this season. Another podium finish for him. He may have lost ground in the championship standings, however. He again has shown his quality, his talent here at Motorland Aragon. Holgado will come through to get weighed in the Parc Fermé. Usual weigh in. There's the incident from Mario Aggi there through the first corner on that final lap. And here's that move from Muñoz as well. You could almost not see the 64. And then he popped up out of nowhere to squeeze his way through the middle of both the Estrella Galicia machine and the MTA KTM of Ortola to take victory by only 19 thousandths of a second.
David, haz una sin máscara, tú solo una sin máscara.